Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Payments Leader Show. I'm your host, Adrian Evans. And on this show, we want to bring you the opportunities to embrace the opportunities in the payments industry before we start meeting the challenges. And today, I'm really excited for two reasons. I'm excited, first of all, because this is our very first special podcast that we've done. So, this is the one where we're focused on a particular topic. And in this conversation is about AI, but AI with a difference. And the second reason I'm most excited is because of our guest today. I've got to know this guest very well over the last 5 to 6 weeks. So, Cien, welcome.
Hi, Adrian. Thank you for having me on the show. I'm really excited. It's about 8 in the morning or something like that, and I'm excited to start my day with this conversation.
Amazing, amazing. I think it'll give us energy putting out into the world having this conversation. So, just a little bit of background how I've got to know Cien. So, over the last 2 to 3 years, I've been facilitating AI conversations at many payments conferences. But the thing is, I felt like I haven't immersed myself in AI myself. And I think what it was, it just still felt very codey to me and still not very immersive. But Cien has changed that. She's obviously got a very strong coding background herself, but she's brought the human element, the human first element to AI. So even people like me with no coding background can use AI for their business, for their productivity, in all sorts of ways. So I can't thank you enough for not just introducing me, but I'm now on my sixth or seventh project with AI, which back in September, I just couldn't imagine. So I can't thank you enough, and I can't wait to get into hear your story and how you're doing this for thousands of people.
No, thank you. I need to correct you though. My coding experience is quite light. I'm a
Okay,
product manager, so I used to work with a lot of engineers. Whilst
great.
I
Okay,
understand code,
yeah,
um, I actually kind of like I advocate for no code, easy.
great.
So yeah, that's more of my background.
Amazing, amazing. Well, that just makes it even more remarkable. But I think what your a big ability for me is to cross the chasm and create that bridge so that AI is for everybody. Anyway, they're my opinions. I want to get into yours. So tell us a little bit about your background and what you've come to do as be the founder of Launch Lemonade.
Absolutely. So I actually come from payments myself. So fintech, financial services. And I used to be a product manager, senior product manager, product owner. Like that was my background. And whilst even as a kid, I started building my own websites and web apps. The first one, I was only 11 when I started playing around with HTML and PHP. And I did a lot of courses in uni as well. I've been building a lot of kind of like part-time projects after that. But really, kind of my exposure to deep tech and AI started when I was a product owner for a big company. And they had a lot of budget, sizable engineering team. I was able to deploy my first chatbot they started working on it 2017, deployed in 2018. And then after that, they built a lot of machine learning models from affordability, pricing, um, credit, fraud. But again, these were with big engineering teams. So I
Yeah,
worked with a lot of engineers. But what we did was we delivered for the business. So we wanted to improve customer experiences and we wanted to improve business decisions, better
yeah,
transactions. Now, in this space, because I'm the middleman, I manage the engineering teams, I create the tickets, I explain what we need to build, but I also work with the business because I need to make sure that the business gets what they need from their perspective. They don't care about tech. They just care about outcomes, out like what is the
yeah.
result. So I was that bridge.
Okay.
And I was able to translate that now in the world of AI, where the business now is all of kind of like the SMEs who have no exposure to this tech, and plus kind of like the application, the software itself, the tech itself. So yeah, that's my background.
Amazing, amazing. And now you founded Launch Lemonade, which for me is democratizing and making accessible for all people, particularly people in the SME space as well as enterprise as well. So I think my first question for you is why did you lead? What was the inspiration for leading with a human first AI piece of tech?
When When I was asked like what do I want to do for, like what do I do want to do in life, I always say I want to make the world a better place. Like no joke. That was always a dream. Like how can I make the world a better place? And even though I was working in finance, I like every project that I did, I was like quite I won an award actually at work, like most customer centric. That's just me. Like I like to think about like how can technology improve people's lives, even if it's kind of like in finance or AI. Like how can this improve people's lives? And the one concern that I had with the development in AI was the alignment problem. So I
Yeah,
read this book and called the alignment problem, and also the equity. I worried about equity. Like how
yeah.
can small to medium sized people like myself, businesses like myself, make sure that we get to participate in this economy. And that was my motivation. So I was like, if people don't understand AI and there's no platform where they can easily deploy their own AI solutions to keep participating in this new economy where everyone's going to be buying from AI powered solutions, how will they protect their livelihood? So that was the inspiration. That
Wow,
was a
wow.
motivation as well.
Amazing. So I love that because it comes from such a deep place. So how do you balance then the needs of the needs of humans and the human values as well as their creativity? Because there is this, I call it a myth out there because I've been educated by you on how this isn't the case, whereas AI can replace creativity, etc. But actually, tell us how that can enhance.
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. Can it replace creativity? I actually write poetry and I used to draw. I even have like certifications in animation. Like I'm a creative more like a wannabe creative, but I
Okay.
love creating. I love creating. But I'm more like, yeah, like I just love the process of like feeling something and then translating that and expressing that feeling into something else. Now, with AI, like I still express my feelings and my creativity but instead of a canvas or Adobe Suite, I just use an AI tool where I express
Mm,
what I want through a prompt
mm,
or through a mood board that I collect and I give it to AI and there's still an output.
yeah.
So I don't think that it replaces the creativity, maybe the process of
Mm,
you picking up
mm,
a brush, and the I don't know, whatever process that you have for the art that you make, or that the what you're creating. But I don't think it replaces creativity. So I think that it just like a new way of it's a
mm,
new tool where you can uh express something,
yeah.
and instead of just yourself and a tool, like there's another brain that you can collaborate with, and like but it's still you orchestrating
Yeah, yeah.
the output.
Mm.
So yeah, that's how I see it.
Wow, wow. Yeah, it's interesting for me because there's two really big things I've picked up from you recently. Number one is get AI to do the heavy lifting with creativity. So, for instance, for myself, I'm dyslexic, even though I'm an author, and I find coming up with the idea, the first draft, I find that really quite straightforward. I'm always having ideas, coming up with a good title, straightforward. But actually, the process and the structure of writing, AI is brilliant at that. It brings structure. Add me to AI, it's 1 + 1 = 6, or one six
Hmm.
in this case, 1 + 1 = 26. So I think it's like it's that amplification and that sort of collaboration there that helps. And
It's the
also, I think the other
scale.
thing, yeah. So the other thing I picked up from you is when you say, you can use AI to brainstorm with. So when I get an idea now, I go, oh, what do you think of that idea? And then you almost end up with this because by the time you've done this a few times and you've iterated, I don't know, I feel like almost give me permission to sort of experiment without judging it and going, oh, it doesn't work. No, it doesn't work. Well, just keep on experimenting.
Exactly that. Experimentation. Before when we had an idea and we used to go to a council or get advice, like, what do you think about this idea? And we relied, like, like there, like we felt like we didn't always feel confident with sharing our ideas, or was able to afford sharing every idea and seeing if that
Mm.
idea can I don't know, can we can pursue that idea, because it could be expensive, or it could be, it could take a it's a long process to get everyone in a meeting room, share your idea, and you could just be shut down. So
Yeah.
there's a long process of exploring an idea. Now, open your laptop, open your phone, type an idea in, and then you can quickly explore,
Mm.
the idea yourself, or maybe even improve on that idea before you go on that meeting. So yeah, absolutely.
Amazing, amazing. So I want to get to the nub of things today, and I love what you were saying about how you were the sort of conduit between the business and the engineering team. So I'm going to come at this now from a very business orientated perspective. Most of the AI deployments I've heard about have been great for productivity, great for operating efficiencies, etc. But what about revenue growth? Where do you see the opportunities for revenue growth? Because I see all businesses only ever want to do three things really. They want to drive down transaction cost, they want to mitigate risk, and they want to enhance revenue or protect existing revenue, enhance it, and cross sell it. That's why any business at the hardest form actually exists. So, what about the opportunities for revenue growth?
There's so much opportunities that I don't think businesses are taking yet. So imagine
Okay.
now, you have, let's say, 1,000 employees. Now in this 1,000 employee organization, you would have about even 10% of your 1,000 employees. If you taught them how to transform their expertise into an AI agent, you can repackage that and resell to your competitors or other customers, your clients. Like if you have an accounting
Okay.
team in your business, they can repackage a tool that they maybe built themselves, or on again, if they have an expert there, and they turn themselves into an AI agent that they can repackage and resell, or replace an existing solution.
Okay.
That's cost savings, or that's revenue opportunity. um for the employees themselves, actually, I would encourage you to transform your expertise into some sort of AI agent that you can resell to that company, or maybe
Yeah.
resell outside your company. See, there's a lot of revenue opportunities if you're an expert in a company, if you serve a company. Those things you can turn into a set of AI agents that can make revenue for you.
Yeah. And also one of the things I've noticed as well is so we can create intellectual property, yeah, which can be licensed, etc. And I suppose the difference is, but some people thinking, yeah, but we can do that with software. No, but we can do this at warp speed, yep, at minimizing cost rather than employing and deploying huge amounts of people. So the second thing I was also hearing there is I call it knowledge out of head. So people getting their knowledge out of their head, passing that on as either their own intellectual property or also the company-wide piece of that. Because we all know things like books. Books is the best amplifier I've ever done. Was written a book. It changes your persona overnight, and many people that the whole process of writing something like that is becomes so much easier to get that out of your head. Um, the other one I was just thinking of as well from that perspective is the front end of marketing, which is, and we're just going through this process today, and we're going to obviously have a demo from your team today on how to put together a whole workflow of front end marketing with a campaign strategist. So this is all agents, but rather than employing five people, we've got a strategist, campaign strategist. We have got a researcher who's going to scan the environment. We've got an outreach writer, we've got a blog producer, and also then we've got a social media producer as well. Um, so that just seems a natural way of developing that, but keeping humans in the loop at the beginning, at the decision making. So, could you tell us a little bit more about how important it is to keep humans in the loop rather than outsource this to AI?
Yeah, I think especially in the world of marketing and brand, people still buy from brands they resonate with, and people still buy, period. It's not bots that are buying it, it's still people who buy. So if you think about how people decide, We buy from brands we resonate with, messaging that, like hooks our emotion. And AI is still bad at translating all of these things. I mean, they're good, but you want to make sure that it stands out. Like, whatever, if you're a brand or a business, you want to make sure that the output stands out. Now, there's a lot of things that you can do with AI to scale this. But because we want to protect our brands and our messaging, and we want to make sure that we uh, provide our audiences with something that is authentic, first, you orchestrate the AI team so that they provide you with that desired authentic output. And then last, you just want to make sure that you're managing them. So you're checking, you're proofreading before it comes out. So that's where you come in.
Mm,
Orchestration and the designing of that team, and then proofreading and making
sure.
sure that what comes out is on brand.
Brilliant. How important is, so you've got that process, but how important is the step before that, where you build, you've talked about building a brain and building a memory first and also a data set? Because often I hear people say, oh, I put this into ChatGPT, I asked it to write, and it doesn't write very well. And that was my experience. But that's a bit crazy. It's got no human context over here. So I wonder if you could bring that brain and brand guidelines and data to life for us a bit.
So if, when you hire a new employee, they could be junior, totally new, first day, and you tell them, write a marketing campaign for me, for social blogs and whatnot, they're gonna, and then you tell them you have an hour. So what will they do? They have no idea about your company. They really don't know what your products are. They're gonna just write based on kind of like the general stuff that they know and heard from about your company without actually knowing a lot of
Yeah.
things. So the output is gonna be not good.
Yeah.
Now, if you give them time, you teach them about your products, you teach them about the values of your company, your tone of voice. Over time, they'll learn. They're going to improve that output. So let's say, no, you have 3 months. Now you have 3 months to write this blog. Um, you have 3 months to write this blog. Now that new employee is going to read everything that they can, competitors, market research, but also your company handbook, your values, your
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
branding guidelines. Now they're good, that output is going to get better.
Yeah.
You can set the same thing up with your AI. You can design what they know. You can feed them their own knowledge base, but instead of months and months of them learning all this thing, you pretty much upload or type in English, and you're designing what they know.
Yeah. So it's providing context. Yeah, I suppose it's the old adage, isn't it? Um, rubbish in, rubbish out. Yeah. Or actually, in this
Yeah,
case,
it
really,
it
really
it,
good.
it is sorry.
Yeah.
We call it context engineering. So you're
Mm,
engineering the context of your AI.
brilliant. But in this case, if we can get really good context and data in, we're far more likely to get a better output. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. In the world of AI, we call that, so there's prompt engineering where you're giving instructions and you're being very clear about what you want the output to be. And there's context engineering. This is when you feed it with the right data,
Yeah.
when you're designing the context around your language model. So you're not only saying what you want it to do, but you're building an environment for it to be able to deliver your desired output, feeding it with a knowledge base, designing your memory.
Okay. Because there's one thing I found amazing as well. Like my prompting to start with was not very good at all. And it was really funny, but I asked the AI to be really bold. Yeah. And of course, I looked at it and I just thought, oh, does this sound like me? Yeah. And of course, I read it and I was like, oh my God, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say this. And then actually, one of my marketing directors said to me, it doesn't sound like you, but what did you ask it to do? So I said, I asked it to be bold. He said, well, it's been bold. He said, do you mean you want it to be thought provoking? I said, oh yeah, I want it to be thought provoking. He said, well, tell it to be thought provoking. Yep. And it was thought provoking, not bold and outrageous. And I think that's something we need to really appreciate, which I think the prompting is also really important as well as the data set. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you're hiring someone, if you don't have a job spec, you just say, I just need an accountant or I
Yeah,
just need a social media manager. Without the job spec, you're going to get all sorts of people
of
from
course.
different experiences in different industries. But if you're very clear about that job spec, I want you to have fintech experience, 5 years doing social media, TikTok, Instagram, blah blah blah. You're gonna get a better
Yeah,
applicant. That's
absolutely.
yeah, that matches what you need. It's the same. It is exactly the same as a job spec. The better and clearer your job spec is, and the more clear you are in that job spec, who you're looking for, what you want them to do, the better match you're going to get from the market.
Okay. So, what advice would you give to our audience? Because, as I say, up until recently, AI was just this. It felt like this walking into a sweet shop, but with like Willy Wonka's factory with like millions of sweets, all these tools, and just going, I think they're all amazing, but I don't know what to do with them. I don't even know where to start. I'm just overwhelmed. Overwhelmed is not a useful place to actually be productive. So what advice would you give to people to say, hey, let's bring that down to something that's manageable so we can start this process?
Yeah, I think if you follow this framework, it's going to be really easy. One, identify one problem you want to solve or one pain point in your business you want to tackle. So let's say I am not writing enough blogs, so people aren't finding us on ChatGPT or Google. How can I solve this problem? Okay. Now, do a little bit of research or ask ChatGPT or your Claude what are top tools that will, or what are 3 ways that it will help me produce more blogs.
Yeah,
Once you've done that, you're going to conduct a little mini RFP. So before an RFP would be an entire team, checking out different tools, interviewing,
yeah.
literally just do a little research. Try 3 tools and then find one that matches your budget. Find one that you can try and it won't be expensive or free to try for a week. And then you make a decision.
Ah. So problem first, tool second.
Yeah, don't be overwhelmed. You shouldn't be overwhelmed with tools. Like you should be feeling like you're overwhelmed with the problems that you have because that's what you want to solve. You don't want to choosing a tool is not a problem.
Okay. See, it's obviously in my world, I'm obviously an executive advisor and executive coach. And it's interesting for me as well. I've wondered like what's going to be the future of coaching. I get asked all the time and future of advice, but still this still puts the human need first. Yeah. So the tool just is an amplifier and scaler potentially and whatever, but we still need to understand ourselves at first and do the work ourselves to go, what's the one problem, not the 26 or 21 problems.
Exactly. What's the one problem you want to solve today? And then choose choose the tool. Um, Now, one thing that you want to consider, and we're always considering, is competitiveness. Like, how do we compete? Like, I was producing just one blog a week before, but my competitors are doing 100 blogs per day now. So now your problem becomes more focused. I need to produce 1,000 blogs a day. How do I do this? That's your problem.
Yeah.
The problem scales because of
Okay.
of competitors, but doesn't mean that there's so many tools. Like there are only a few blog tools that you can choose from.
Okay.
So
Yeah. And also, I suppose in that situation, it's understanding what your competitive advantage is as well, which is the what's the quality of those, and then we're into remember getting your USP and your ideal customer profile, and so it's actually it brings up a whole load more questions. Do we want to produce 1,000 a day? Well, I would suggest probably not. But what we want to do is to stand out for different reasons.
exactly, and that's why Launch Lemonade is designed that way, right? Because we don't think that a tool that is already pre-built can really genuinely solve someone's problem.
Mm.
If it's pre-built, it's assuming how that problem is solved without actually knowing the problem.
Mm.
So we believe that a business should be able to solve their own problems by designing what that solution is. But historically, it's been difficult for businesses to design their own solutions because they're not technical.
Right.
And now they can design their own solutions because they don't need to be technical.
Right. Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm excited because we're going to do that later today. We're going to actually pull together a whole workflow of the unique set of tools that we want to use that works for our business. That 5 years ago would have cost, I don't know what, that would have cost six, seven figures. That would have been incredible. So, so tell me, so this is fascinating for me. Just tell me a little bit about how do you balance there between being valuable and then also remaining trustworthy, both as Launch Lemonade, as a company, as an individual, and also by the use of AI? How do you balance those things?
What do you mean by balancing trustworthiness?
Well, I think there's this sort of feeling, there can be this feeling that people think, look at AI, and there's this sort of reticence to go, oh, should I trust AI? Yep. And should I trust AI users? We only got to look at, I'm doing a conference in next year in February, and we're going to talk about deep fake. Yep. Deep fake is the whole subject of my 45 minutes that I'm having with people. So there's a skepticism about this.
Bad actors have existed even before, the AI was first coined in 1956. So AI has existed for decades. And the it's kind of like those, the concept of AI, and how they define it and how, as I understand it, is something that can imitate a human action.
Yeah.
So whether it's picking up a ball or seeing the same, very basic human action, and obviously that's kind of like developing and developing. AI has existed forever. Bad actors have existed forever. Have you heard? And I'm sure you've heard of kind of like the African prince. Like I used to get those emails when I was a kid. Like I'm an African prince. Da 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 da.
Yeah.
Bad actors have existed forever. They just now have a wide set of and they have
Yeah.
different
Sure.
tools. But it's email, phishing,
Yeah.
like landing pages. I mean, so and deepfake is a manifestation of a bad actors using a different tool to do the same things.
Yeah. Yeah. Good point.
Um, so and my funnily enough, my dad and my mom had the same conversation because I started the AI conversation early, and my dad was like, "Oh my gosh, like yeah, deepfake and all of this," and my mom was like, "You've had catfishes and scammers
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
for decades, hundreds of years. Like it's not it's not any
Yeah.
different. The scale and the manifestation may be different, but yeah, are you like if they're like, oh, I'm getting emails from bad actors now. Did you stop using emails?
Yeah.
You're
Yeah. Good point.
getting scam, like you're getting phone calls from unknown numbers and they could be scam. Have you stopped using your phone?
Yeah. Good point. Yeah. Good point. Good point. We just go a little bit deeper on the what AI can do and what it can't do. I did a little experiment the other day, and I just asked AI, how much do you understand language? Because you're called a large language model. How much do you understand language? Yeah. And its response was, I don't understand language. I mimic and anticipate language. And that, for me and everybody I've shared that with in the last week or two, was a real aha moment. Yeah. So I wonder if you could tell us a little about the difference between them understanding the nuance of human language compared to actually what they're doing, which is mimicking.
They're auto completes. Did you ever use Grammarly?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like Grammarly. So, um, uh, AI is a prediction machine. So it has a lot of data and it uses a lot of data to predict what's likely going to happen
Right.
next. Or yeah. So that's what AI is. So a lot of language models are. Now, there are actually models that claim that they understand language more. Like if you there's a company called Hume, no, not Hume. It is Hume.ai. They're a voice company. I think that's what they're called. We used to use them before, but they have a sentiment
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
capability. Yeah. Now, okay, let's go back to why your AI answered that way. It because they don't understand. They just use their data, see an input, and they provide
Got it.
what's the
Got it.
most likely
Got it. Got
best
it.
answer from that output, from that input.
Okay. Brilliant.
Yeah. So that's where the nuance is. Now, however, um, if you look at Jeffrey Hinton's one of Jeffrey, so Jeffrey Hinton is a godfather of AI.
Mm.
I'm not gonna be able to remember this well, but he was like for a while he was anti AI. I think he kind of still is, but even though he's the godfather of AI, like he's been issuing warnings to everyone, like, oh, um, AI could be bad. More recently, he was interviewing, and they were talking about if AI is conscious.
Right.
Now, consciousness, as how we understand it, is is actually quite vague. Like it's like how does it mean to be a conscious human?
Mm.
Um, but we were very clear about AI's consciousness. It can't be conscious. And I was thinking this to myself, but what does it actually mean for
Yeah.
me to be conscious?
Indeed.
Um, I do think, and I heard this, and again, I'm not gonna remember this verbatim because I should be thinking about this more. But I do think that more recently, people have kind of like reimagined a like, what does it mean for an AI to be conscious?
Mm.
Similarly to actually, what does it mean for me to be conscious? Am I just aware that I'm
Mm.
providing answers to you who is giving me questions? I'm aware, da da da. I'm conscious right now. But with AI, like there, I mean, arguably, there's some level, I don't know. But again, this is a subjective definition of what consciousness is. So I don't know. Maybe they understand. I don't know. But it's a very philosophical question. And I think it boils down to, if you think about what concepts mean, we're bound to how we understand the world. And those are not necessarily all true for others. Like it may your concept of things could be true to you, but it doesn't
Indeed.
necessarily mean it's true for others, right? So yeah, I can go on a rabbit hole talking about can AI understand language or not, but um,
Okay.
AI is a prediction machine. It uses its data to complete a task. There are there are things that AI does now though, which make you question, which is reason in itself. So there are reasoning models where first, so the reasoning models don't just give you an output. So we have a few reasoning models on our platform, Gemini 3, 5 GPT 5.1. We even have Kimi K2 thinking. Now, these reasoning models, instead of just auto completing, like giving you a direct output,
Yeah.
it thinks, and it provides steps first within
Okay.
itself. It just thinks, okay, first I must do this, and then second I would do this. And then sometimes the AI would even say, the user asked me to do this. Does it mean this? Like it would actually think first
Mm.
before providing an output. So there are different manifestations of, yeah, can AI understand? I don't know.
Okay. I suppose the big thing it's just done is just provoked a huge amount of questions and a huge amount of to follow that with curiosity. So it's interesting for me there. The thing I'm left feeling there is I've got a whole lot of questions now to ask myself. So if anything, I'm just feeling like that's just enhanced me. Even asking the question has set off a series of about 5 or 6 other ones, and I could see how, I'm getting the feeling more and more is us plus AI can equal far more than one, and or two or three, and it doesn't deplete us. Is I think the important piece.
Absolutely. Before generative AI specifically, I had a 9 to 5. I wasn't guesting in podcast. I wasn't writing newsletters. I wasn't a founder. I wasn't running a
Yeah,
business. I didn't have employees.
yeah.
Just amplified who I am.
Just on that front, I do see you a number of times say this in your posts about AI, which is you see, there was one recently where you talked about a series of layoffs in the States from various companies, and you said, you're certainly no doom merchant at all. You're very optimistic and very uplifting and want to help lots of human beings. But I heeded the message, which was, hey, look, there's people who you are going to get it replaced by AI, but then there's others who are going to build it, use it, and enhance it for good. Um, Almost what are you going to choose? Don't get left behind. Invest in yourself and invest in these opportunities. I wonder if you could tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I think that by 2030, maybe just a couple of years, maybe early, maybe no, I don't know, but around 2030, a lot of these businesses will be powered by AI agents. So a lot of functions within these businesses are going to be some sort of AI solution instead of humans. I do see that. But I see an opportunity where all of these people that are working within these organizations now, they have the opportunity to actually build the solution that their company buys.
Yeah,
So let's say I'm an expert at Amazon. I'm a white collar at Amazon. I have loads of knowledge. I'm going to put that knowledge in some sort of AI agent and make it into the best solution out there in the market because I have all of these experience and an understanding of an Amazon from working at Amazon. I'm going to turn this into an AI agent, turn this into a product and sell it back to Amazon. So now I have the rights to a product where I know works
mm,
because it's built by me
yeah,
and I'm going to sell it back to Amazon. I'm going to keep making money in this world where
yeah.
businesses will be run by agents. So there's a lot of exciting opportunities out there for people who are experts.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. See, I see the big problem there is the human mindset shift. It's a bit like we've seen a huge drive in the last 20 odd years to fractional. Yep. Where lots of people might be having three or four different jobs as a CFO or FD or marketing director, or whatever, but they've got three different companies and three different clients they work with. But I think people need to shift from, hey, this is the one employer I have. I go to the office 5 days a week or whatever. The pandemic shifted us like this. So this is a mindset challenge for humans, and I get excited about that as a coach because the only thing I think can usually shift significantly mindsets is a lot of human interaction built on trust. Yep.
Yeah, for sure. I've had coaches my entire life. I was an athlete, so
Yep.
a basketball coach. I had life coaches. So yeah, it is. It is about like being mentally strong. In everything that you do, really.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So I wonder if we could just go back to the what I call HI, human intelligence, artificial intelligence. And by the way, this you wrote one particular blog and you got me. This is where you got me. Okay. And it was the equivalent, it was writing, but it was equivalent of a Venn diagram I had in my head where this is what AI does well. AI does repetitive tasks, it does the hard work on scaling things, and but then you went over here and you said HI is really good at building trust, building relationships and coming up with ideas and being a context maker. Yeah. So I took from that, stick to your lane, but use the other one as effectively as possible to expand. So that was the moment I was in. Okay. So tell me more about that. You probably know the blog you wrote. So tell me more about that.
I've learned this from the past couple of well, I would say it's been defined in the past couple of years, although I've had multiple experiences where I'm like, yeah, that's where I learned this from. But as a business owner, even though I had the technology over the 2 years, it wasn't the tech that sold my customers. It was me being in the room, me telling them I'm gonna hold their hands, me showing them how
Yeah.
it works, me explaining how the AI. It was the relationships that I built from the idea that I had, um, and from the connections that I was making. It wasn't just the tech itself. So that's kind of like that's firsthand experience of how I was able to scale what I had with AI. But the human things, the relationship building, the being the being trusted by customers allowed me to grow the business, not the tech itself.
Right. Can we just return back to, we touched on it earlier, just about the ethical elements here. You mentioned obviously about deepfake, etc. So what advice do you have to somebody who's sort of ethically thinking again, where could this go wrong? Like, the sense I'm getting from you is like, if you come from a good place first, well, we can't. We're not bad actors, so if we come from a good place first, it's to almost sort your own work out. Where what are you going to bring to this? That's the sense I'm getting from you.
I don't know if that is what I so can you ask me that question again?
Yeah, sorry. Okay, when it comes to lots of people in our audience will be worried about the ethics of using different elements of AI. What reassurances or what questions should they ask themselves, or what advice would you have for them?
That's such an interesting question. Like I've been asking this myself my entire life for everything that I do. Am I doing something good
Okay,
or bad?
right. Okay,
Right?
so it's a question
And
you consistently ask yourself then. Okay.
yeah, is this a good thing or a bad thing? Like my mom, like I guess, like going I was raised by Catholics. My parents are very religious, and I went to a very religious school as well. And so the conversation around ethics is deeply
Right.
rooted
Okay.
in me. We're always talking about ethics and what is good or bad or what sits in the middle. And this is a topic that I've been um, thinking about, and even before AI. Like, and I don't know if everyone does this, but you always question, like once you start questioning if you're doing something bad, then there must be something off there. Um, as a human, my mom and my dad taught me that if you're hurting someone, if it hurts someone, or if you're, if with whatever you do, it would impact someone in a negative way, then don't do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's probably something bad. And I think that's quite simple, right? Like being
Mm.
kind and do not doing
Yeah. Yeah.
anything. So I think that that's it. Like that is the principle.
Yeah. Yeah. Great.
If you're
Okay.
creating content and you're not hurting anyone, like that's your thing. What's the what's I mean, from an ethical perspective, we all have our own definition of what's good and bad.
Okay.
And ethics is a deep context that I don't know ethics. I don't think an ethicist really understand what is
Fine.
really
Okay.
ethical, because that word changes over time. Like ethics in AI never existed. Like we didn't really understand what that means up until more recently, and people are still trying to understand what is ethical in the world of AI. You've got copyright issues, like and also, but if you look at countries like China, they didn't even have copywriting kind of like
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
laws
it's
even
contextual. Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's loads of context around ethics. Like how do you as a user, as an end user, right? What is ethical as an end user? I think if you're not hurting someone, if it, that's fine. And I don't think people should put the onus on like thinking about ethics on AI when they're not OpenAI or Gemini or Google. They should be thinking about ethics.
Mm.
Like we're just at the end of it, or we're consuming and we're paying them. They should tell us. So I don't know. It's a big topic, I think.
Okay.
Like you should ask yourself as a user, oh, in whatever you do, not just in using AI. Like, what is good or bad? Like what I mean, you should have, yeah, I think it's a big, big topic.
Mm. Well, perhaps you could bring it back to something very human, because I think the other connection that you and I have, or we share, is, I've my goal in life is to positively impact 20,000 careers whilst I'm alive. And that just gives me the opportunity to get out of bed every day and to do some good in the world. It also gives me the opportunity to go to sleep well at night because I've had helped at least one person that day. Yeah. I feel like a real resonance with you because you've already positively impacted 5,000 people already, and God knows how many you'll do. But I feel again that comes from a good place from you. You want to do something good in the world. You want to positively impact at scale with the skills you have, which are not just about technology, but actually bridging that gap with technology. I'd love to know your views on that.
Yeah, my views on helping people.
Yeah, yeah,
Do you have a question there?
yeah. So where does that come from? Sorry, because it's interesting for me. Somebody said to me the other day, there's a lot of people. I've got a very clear mission. So when people say to me, what are you about? And I said, well, okay, if you want to really understand me, I want to positively impact 20,000 people whilst I'm alive. And
Yeah.
people go, this is funny because a lot of people go, oh, so how far are you up to? And I'm always like, whoa, 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 dude, you're missing the point. It doesn't matter. Okay. I'm intentionally turning up every single day. And if I met somebody today in a local coffee shop who was serving coffee here, I had a taxi driver the other day, an Uber taxi driver. We had a long journey back. I gave the guy an hour's worth of free coaching because he wants to move career. I would help anybody. I help CEOs at this end. I would genuinely, and that comes from a place I would sort of thank my mother for that because she's the one who said, do good. Yeah. Okay. Just do good in life. If you do good in life, you'll have a good life. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what she taught me all the time. So that's where mine comes from. And so you resonate this with just how you act and how you behave. I suppose the question is, where does that come from?
Where does it come from? Wow, that's such a deep question. My parents are the most generous people that I know. Like growing up, they used to do Christmas drives. They would do like these. They were an example of like what generosity looked like, and I guess that has permeated. Um, and I, but why do I want to help people? What is my motivation? I think the answer that kind of sits with me right now is I think life is too short not to
Yeah.
want to make an impact. I thought I was gonna die young because of like, things that I did to my body. I was like, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die young. When I was in my teens, I was like, I'm probably gonna die young. And um and every day I had this like thing where like I wanted to have the best day ever every
Right.
day because I could die the following day. That was kind of the state of mind that I was in.
Okay.
So every day I had to be the best version of myself and the best version of me to other people. And I'm not really motivated by other things like money or um I don't know what other motivations there are, like power or something. I don't know. I've never been motivated by those things, but I'm motivated by the idea that I could change the world.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, and maybe this comes from my religious upbringing. Like I learned so much about, I don't know if you're religious or aware of kind of like these religious figures, but Ignatius de Loyola and like these Jesuit figures that dedicated their lives to change the world, Mother Teresa. Those are the people that I learned about when I was a kid, like
Mm.
being brought up in a Jesuit school.
Right.
The, all of the figures that were taught that kind of like mattered were all like people who dedicated themselves to making other people's lives better. And I guess that's where that comes from. I don't know. Like I'm just thinking, I'm just reflecting now. That's what I learned growing up. Like the great people change people's lives.
Okay. Final question, and just a one-word answer. Yeah. If you were to do more of a single human trait, so whether you was to have more humor, more empathy, um, more, more, or anything in the world, what's the one thing you would like to have more of as a human being in this world?
Poetry.
Okay. Jen, this has been an amazing conversation. We've explored so many subjects and so many different. I didn't know where we'd go today, but I think we're both very curious. We're very open. So I'm wondering if I've got pages of notes here. So I'm wondering if I could just try and do a bit of a summary, just trying to pull our conversation together. Would that be okay?
Yes, go for it.
I think first of all, I think what I've learned today is contextually the world is a changing, and actually, I suppose the big piece or the message to the audience is don't get left behind, but actually, and don't get overwhelmed either. There's tools here that you can use, but you have to do the work on yourself. So find the one problem that could help shift your career or your business most right now. Don't think of the 11 problems or the six problems. Think of the one problem because there's a plethora of tools out there. The next piece then is to put that in context and also with AI is to prompt well, to realize the old adage of, good input in, good output is what you're going to get from a computer from that perspective. And I love the analogy there as well about if you had a new employee, you'd actually make sure they're onboarded well. You'd give them the guidelines on what the brand looked like, what our tone of voice was as a brand, what our products were, what our audience was, what our competitive landscape is, etc. But I think the big one that came from me today was work with AI in collaboration. Always remain the human in the loop, particularly at the start of the process and at the end of the process, but let AI do the heavy lifting in between. Um, and I think the important thing was it can be a source for good and it can be an opportunity, but it depends. Again, do the work on yourself there. What do you do into the world? What do you bring into the world? Because AI is just an amplifier. It's just going to make it louder, whatever you're doing. So if you're doing great stuff and you're helping lots of other people, it's going to amplify. Yeah. I suppose it's like having a lot of money in that sense. If you're a good person anyway and you have a lot of money, you're probably just going to amplify you more than actually change you. Um, but I think the one that really struck me particularly as well was about opportunities. There are opportunities for large organizations, particularly for SMEs, though, who don't have access to buy all these resources, etc. But like we're going to do is set up a whole, five piece AI agent to amplify what we're doing. But our messages will stay really clear. And there's an opportunity to create your own IP, to create your own licensing, etc. I just get so excited when I hear, there's pop stars from the 60s and 70s still earning money today, especially at Christmas time, for work they did 40, 50 years ago. They deserve that because those riffs are still going in our heads all these years later. So I think the important thing I've learned today is this is possible. This is practical. And with Launch Lemonade, you can actually do this for a very short, small amount of money per month. And actually, you've already hugely impacted 5,000 plus people. That's what I've taken from today.
Thank you. That's amazing summary.
Well, can I leave the last words with you I know you're up for an award soon as well, and I know you're looking to expand the business from a funding perspective. Is there anything what should people do if they want to hear more about Launch Lemonade?
Subscribe to our free newsletter. It's launchlemonade.substack.com. Attend one of our master classes on Wednesdays. I also co-facilitate a workshop with two amazing guys. It's called Get Good with AI. So if you
Yeah,
visit goodwithai.org, I'm one of the facilitators there. And yeah, follow me on any social media platform that you use, Cien and AI, and let's learn AI together.
wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your generosity, your time, and your thoughts today.
Amazing. Thanks for having me, Adrian. All good?